Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Interesting music choice. All of our guests today, including Ian Furness from KJR Sports Radio, sponsored by Basant Motors. The Basant Motors Scholarship is back again this year. Basant is offering $32,000 to 16 deserving students. How about that, Rick?
So nice.
Get all the details at basantmotors.com/scholarship. Deadline to enter is September 24th. You and I would know nothing about scholarships.
Nope.
Joining us now after a long summer, we've missed him, from KJR Sports Radio and Fox 13 Sports, Ian Furness down in Seattle. How are you, sir? Looking tanned, looking fit. How are you?
One of the two is correct. One of the two is accurate, and it might be the tan. Gentlemen, great to be back with you in beautiful British Columbia. How are you guys?
Very well, very well. Now, in the past, you've we've asked you about the Seattle Mariners in the past, and you've talked about how the Mariners haven't exactly captured the imagination of the Seattle sports fan. What about now, a team that it could be a World Series contender?
Well, they've captured them now. There's no doubt. They're such a strange team. 47 years without going to the World Series, more really bad seasons than even average seasons. They've only won 4 division titles in that time. So there's a lot of skepticism here. But listen, this is the second year in a row that they're third year in a row, really a playoff contender. Last year they made it in. This year it looks like they'll get in. It's really kind of, 3 teams for 2 spots: Seattle, Texas, Toronto, or Seattle, Houston, Toronto, however you want to slice the AL West. So, yeah, people are excited. I think, we feel like people are on board. They're watching games. So we'll see. There's a little bit of baseball left to be played. It feels like they're comfortably going to be in. It's just a question of whether or not they can win the division.
Yeah, 4th best record in the American League at this point. Maybe World Series contender was a bit of a stretch, but they're a lot better than they have been in the past.
Well, they've had the first or second best record in baseball since July 1st, right before the All-Star break. And the only team better than them in terms of that record since then, it would be the Dodgers, who are actually here next week. So, but yeah, they've really played good baseball. It's just funny. It's a 162-game season. I always hear people at the start of the year saying, it's early, it's okay. Hey, those games in April and May that they kicked, they count too. So they'd be in a lot better situation. But they're in good shape. They're built for the playoffs. Donnie and Rick, they're built for the playoffs with the top 3 starters in a rotation. That's all you need. It's just a matter of can they get there, because if they get there, they're going to be a hard out.
Okay. Seahawks, they open by hosting the Rams on Sunday. I'm sure you're aware of that. What do you expect from that? What do you expect? I hope you are. What do you expect from this Seattle Football Club this year?
Well, I'm glad you reminded me. I would have been late to get to the game and do our post-game show. I appreciate that. That's why I come on this show. I think they're a really good football team. But we saw last night, with Kansas City and Detroit, this league is built on parity. It just is. Last year at this time, I think when we spoke, it was like low expectations. I think I probably would have told you I thought they were better than people were giving them credit for, but who knew? And, as it turned out, the offense carried the team, not the defense last year. They're a really good offensive football team. We'll start there. They're really good on offense. They've got a lot of skill. They've got a lot of weapons. They should have, I believe, shored up that offensive line in the middle with a new center in Evan Brown. That was a massive issue last year. Outside of that, the 2 second-year tackles and the guards are solid. They're going to be okay. They're going to put points up. The question is, can they stop the run? They didn't stop the run at all last year. They basically gutted the interior of that defensive line. They turfed everybody. It was like, let's kick it. This guy to the curb, this guy to the curb. They brought a whole new group in, and we won't know until they play if they're any good. And I don't think we'll know this week because the Rams are awful. Like, the Rams are not very good at all. They're in a rebuild mode. They don't have Cooper Kupp this week. So it might take until next week in Detroit to find out what this team's all about on the defensive side.
Geno Smith was such a great story, Ian, last year. He really was. So people are now, I was listening to Bruff and Ruff this morning. They had a Seattle guy on. Same question. He
wasn't as good as Ian.
No.
Well, but let's be honest. It's because I told them no this morning. I said I'm coming on with you guys.
That's
so
it.
I don't know who they picked up
some
on the
guy. I don't even know his name. But listen, they talked
on
about
the waiver
Geno
wire.
Smith.
They got this guy. Yeah.
Was Geno Smith? Does he have to prove last year wasn't a fluke?
I don't know if he has to prove it, although it's interesting. His contract is life-changing for him, but it's also one that he can, and this, well, more importantly, the team can get out of after 1 year. Yeah. So I think there is something, Rick, I think there is something for him to prove in that sense, because if they can, he can basically, they can cut ties with him after this season without any financial penalties in the long term. So I think he has something to prove. He was really good the first half. Second half, the numbers dropped dramatically. Yeah. But I think there's some reason, like as always, it's just the raw numbers dropped. But what was the reason? It's like Pat Mahomes last night. He didn't have a great night. Why? Well, like 4 guys dropped balls. Yeah. He didn't have Travis Kelce. Ken Walker got hurt. Offensive line was in flux. Tyler Lockett missed a game with a hand injury. You take those things out of the lineup, and that changes everything for the quarterback. You still have to have guys around you, no matter how good you are, a.k.a. Mahomes last night. So, but I think a consistent year from Geno, maybe not the high that he reached in the first half and some of the lows he reached in the final 9 games, including the playoffs. Somewhere in between, that's going to be just fine for this football team.
All right, let's talk hockey. For the Kraken, 100 points last year. You know what else was impressive? 26 road wins. That was pretty cool for them to get that many. You beat Colorado in 7, take Dallas to 7. Where are expectations for this team this year?
Well, it's like Donnie started talking about the Mariners' expectations. They've always just been massively low because of the history. Now the Kraken, after an abysmal first year, just flip a switch. They get healthy. They got some goaltending. And then all of a sudden they found themselves, 3 really solid centers down the middle in Beniers, the rookie, and Wenberg and Gord. And so I think the expectations are high. It's interesting. What do you read into television ratings? I don't know. But the Kraken playoff run last year on TV in our market was higher rated than the Mariners playoff games last fall.
Wow.
So people were jumping on board, guys. I think we talked last spring. The atmosphere and climate pledge for those playoff games was I was hoping it would be good. I was blown away by how good it was. It was incredible. People were excited. But now you've raised the bar, right? So like you have to make the playoffs, and it's a tougher conference. But I think it's interesting. They didn't do much to the roster. Like they really didn't do much. It was more deletions as opposed to adds. But when you have your top 9 forwards all back, and we'll include Burakovsky in that mix. Remember, he didn't play the second half of the season last season. Yeah. So you include top 9 guys back. You got to replace the 4th line. Cartier will get a shot there. Maybe Shane Wright will get a shot there. But you got 5 of your top 6 defensemen. Number 6 is with you guys. I think they think Riker Evans can step up. They went and signed the veteran Dumoulin from Pittsburgh, I guess. But I think they hope Riker can be that third pair D-man. Look, expectations are high. It's probably is Grubauer as good as he was last season. They got Drieger healthy as a backup, and they got some insurance there with the cord. They're a really solid hockey team. They're not a high-end team, but they're a really good hockey team going into this year. And if they stay healthy, I think they're going to have another terrific season, and we're going to be talking about the postseason again.
Okay, but you mentioned TV ratings, so that was my next question. Will that playoff run help more awareness of hockey in Seattle? Did you notice something in July and August?
I think, Rick, it's hard because in the States, and I know this just from doing minor league hockey in the AHL and the IHL and the dub for all those years. In our country, honestly, it feels like hockey season doesn't start until after Christmas, right? It's just kind of the way it is. And look, they'll sell out every game. They all the games are sold out. The place will be full. But as far as people taking notice, it'll probably there'll probably be a nice bump early in the year with some numbers, and then after the first of the year, we'll see that again. It's just we have a hard time multitasking as sports fans in the States. We really do, or at least I should say here in our market. Like, we have to talk about that all the time. People go, oh, what are you going to do? You got the Seahawks starting and college football's going on. And, boy, the Mariners are on a playoff run. The Kraken start. I said, yeah, that's what you do in a major market. You talk about a lot of sports. But we have a hard time doing that here sometimes and multitasking. But I think they'll be on board. Like I said, I'm curious, though, guys, because they just didn't do anything. And I don't think they needed to do anything, but that's just so anti-sports just to kind of say, we're going to stand pat in the offseason.
I can't tell you how bad we feel for you, Ian. You've got all those major sports to cover down in Seattle. It must be really difficult.
Well, I mean, listen, you guys will
college football and basketball.
Did the Canucks get relegated or something? What happened? What's going on with them? Are they? Are they playing in Abbotsford this year? Or they moved. What are we doing down there with the Canucks? How are we doing?
Well, you know what's you're down there, by the way. We're up here. Hey, listen.
Yeah, that's right.
The big story right now: the Man Cup of Lacrosse, Canada's National Lacrosse Championship, starts
Are the Salmon
tonight.
Bellies in it?
They're in it. Yes, against Six Nations. Very good.
How about the Victoria Shamrocks? Are they still around?
They're not. No, they're not.
Oh.
they were eliminated. Yes.
Well, listen. How about? Do I get credit for that? How many of your guests from the States would be able to fire off a couple box lacrosse? Can we call it box lacrosse? Is that what it is?
Well, we thank your mother for that because she's Canadian, right? And you pay attention to these things.
I spent summers up in North Van with the Hammond family and the cousins and all that. Yeah, so we've been to we've seen it. And New West, what a dump. Anyway,
have we got time for one more question?
Park. Is Queens Park still in business?
Don't be knocking Queens Park.
Don't knock Queens Park. That's my old stomping grounds.
That's his hometown.
Well, that tells you all you need to know right there.
Hey, many a night I spent at Queens Park and after the game as well.
Yeah, they wouldn't let him in.
Get a room next time, fella.
Yeah.
Get a room next time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have time for the question I wanted to ask, but next week or next time we have you, one of these times I want to ask you about these Amazon concessions.
Yeah,
at Lumen Field. Okay, so a couple of Canadians here. We went down to see the Vikings preseason game.
Yep.
We didn't know what to do, so I'm going to ask you about that next time. Ian, thanks for this. Have a good time. Seahawks and Rams, by the way, Sunday.
Yeah, Fox 13. You guys see it up there. We'll do a post-game show. Tune in. All right.
Beautiful.
All right. See ya.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Ian.